much, Sivo, Dr. Sivo. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our magic hour, as Sivo once coined it. Actually, our third meeting. I think I asked Sivo earlier, and he indicated this is officially our third meeting as visionary readers. And yes, sure, we have so many people from how we started in the beginning. So first of all, hope you all had a beautiful heritage weekend, long weekend with families, and yeah, I know there was a lot of parties and weddings and everything going on. So I hope you all had a good time. I'm also super excited and honored to be hosting this meeting tonight. I think it is a jam-packed or power-packed session. And yeah, what's quite nice about tonight is that we have three own authors reviewing their own books. So I think it's going to be interesting. And we also have a wide range of different topics and books being reviewed tonight. So I should also maybe note that this meeting actually filled up on at the previous session. This agenda already filled up. So maybe for next time, if you guys want to review books, already put yourselves on that agenda from today, because as I believe the October schedule already has a couple of reviewers on the list already. So yeah, and then yeah, just also keep spreading the word, inviting your friends to these sessions so that we can also grow this movement and spread the word as well. Also, just maybe before we get into the formalities of the evening, I also want to extend congratulations to our founder of this club, Sibo, who recently graduated with his PhD. So yeah, Sibo, I think everyone saw it in the group, and it's an amazing achievement, and we're so proud of you, and we're honored to be in your club. And like I always tell you, you're far too humble for everything you're achieving. But yes, also crossing thumbs that one day you're going to come here and review your own book. So crossing thumbs for that. So yeah, I think we can get right into the rules maybe for tonight before we start with the speakers. So as you guys know, we're going to have 5 minutes per speaker. And what I'm going to do is when you have 1 minute left, I will leave a message in the chat indicating that you have 1 minute left so that you know to start rounding up your speech. Once you have reached 5 minutes, I will turn on my video so that you can see that your time has elapsed. So just keep an eye out for that as well. Please put your cameras on while you do your review. And also, as Sibo mentioned in the chats or in the group, if you guys want to ask questions afterwards to the speaker, as you know, the speaker does get a question from whoever, then just make sure your video is also enabled for that. So yes, I think that is all the rules. Something else Sibo encouraged us to do was to change our backgrounds of Zoom to this one that I have here for neatness. If you can do that, it was shared on the group a couple of months ago. Maybe we could reshare it on the group, Sibo, for those who are going to be speaking later tonight or next time, just for formalities purposes. But yes, without further ado, as you know, we are on a bit of a tight schedule. I am going to kick off with the first speaker or reviewer. And our first reviewer for the evening is Sam Mpenyana, and he's going to be reviewing the book called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Sam, I can see your camera is already on. You're already ready for this. So over to you, Sam.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. And I just want to thank, first of all, before I start, I just want to thank the team at Visionary for setting this up. I know it takes a lot of effort. I was here just 5 minutes before, and so I did hear all the formalities and technicalities going into this meeting. To the team, I just want to say thank you so much. For those of you who don't know, I am Sam, and I will be reviewing the book, The Infinite Game, by one of my favorite authors in the world, Simon Sinek. He is the author of the book. He's also the author of the book Start With Why, and also Leaders Eat Last. So without waxing lyricking, let me just get into it. What exactly is an infinite game according to Simon Sinek? Well, I wrote it down. First of all, I'll start defining what is a finite game. Then I'll go over to what is an infinite game. He says, a finite game is a game played by known players with a fixed set of rules and agreed upon objectives. To when reached, the game ends. The finite game always has a beginning, it always has a middle, and it always has an end. Now, exactly what is an infinite game? An infinite game, there are no set of agreed rules. There is no time horizon, And the objective of the game is to keep playing so that we can perpetuate the game. I'll give you an example. The game of football is a finite game. We have a fixed set of rules, and we have a beginning, and we have a middle and an end. The game of business is an infinite game. Marriage is an infinite game. There is no such thing as winning in marriage. There is no such thing in winning in business. When you hear all of the top business leaders in the world talk about what we are the market leader and we are innovating what in this direction and we are the best in the business, recognize that they are selecting a time frame that they are leading in that and a time frame that best suits them. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, or it could be between the years of 1994 to 2000. Who knows? Whatever suits them. So exactly what happens when you play in an infinite game with finite, what happens when you play in an infinite game with a finite mindset? Well, quite simply, what happens is that as time progresses, you burn through the will and resources that are needed to play in the infinite game. And one of the things that Simon Sinek talks about that I feel so strongly about is having a just cause. A just cause. Think about the great leaders that have propelled or created businesses that have even outlived them. Apple is one of them. Even after the death of Steve Jobs, if my mathematics serves me right, 10 years after the death of Steve Jobs, in his absence, we can still hear his heart beat. Why? It's because Steve Jobs had a just cause that was able to outlive him, and so that other future generations can take his vision forward. One of the things that has kept Apple the way it is and what keeps us in an infinite game is having what Simon Sinek also calls having a worthy rival. We need to stop seeing individuals or competitors as just competitors to be beaten, but we need to see them as a worthy rival. And the question now is, what exactly is a worthy rival? Well, a worthy rival is someone who we acknowledge has strengths and abilities that complement our weaknesses. It allows us to perpetuate the game of business, the game of life. You know, no one can be crowned the champion of life. The game of life still carries on even after the death of certain individuals. So we need to have a worthy rival that keeps us playing in the game. If you think about it, Messi and Ronaldo, those are worthy rivals. Messi is not crowned a better player than Ronaldo just because he won the Ballon d'Or, or football does not end when that happens. Nadal, Djokovic, and Roger Federer are worthy rivals because they identify and acknowledge weaknesses in one another. The last bit of this book, and this is by far my favorite book, my favorite chapter of the book, and it's a chapter called The Existential Flexibility. What exactly is an existential flexibility? When Walt Disney started Walt Disney Productions, he had a vision, he had a cause, and he was so committed to allowing the cause to take them forward. And so they made the first movie that was Snow White. In its day, it had a gross revenue of over 8 million. In today's terms, is 140 million. However, when the CEO of the company wanted to take the company public, he then refused because he believed that what the shareholders were going to do and what the shareholders were going to do was not going to advance his cause. So what did he do? He started his own business. And an existential flexibility takes place at the height of business, not at the founding cause, but at the height of business, when you realize that you could have something that takes your vision forward, something better to enable you to play in the infinite game. Once again, I just want to say thank you to the team that has set this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so and very well done and very clearly explained. I think we were all wondering what that title was referring to. Empowered. Thank you so much, Sam. Well done. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is going to be my one and only twin sister, Tina Saindis, and she will be reviewing the book called The Choice by Edith Eger. So without further ado, over to you, Tina.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you everyone for this movement. I think it's a wonderful cause, and I'm really excited to share this book with you. So the book that I'll be reviewing is The Choice by Edith Eger, that was published in 2018. I read this book on my trusty Kindle back in June. However, it's definitely one of those books that I would like to get in hard copy and add to my bookshelf. It tells the story of a 16-year-old girl, Edith, a Jewish Hungarian girl who was sent to the Auschwitz concentration camp during World War II and was separated from her parents forever. It is ultimately a journey of healing and goes on to unfold how Edith became a world-renowned academic in the field of psychology, obtaining her doctorate at age 60, and how she applied her own learnings of healing in helping her patients as a therapist and truly being able to empathize with them. The book later vividly recounts stories of her patients' trials, and her patients span from war veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, victims of abuse, as well as the modern-day teenager suffering from anorexia. Our own Desmond Tutu described this book as one of those eternal stories that you do not want to end and will leave you forever changed. One of the main themes of this book is how the human mind can be a prison if we let it be, and how personal freedom is attainable once we make the choice to confront our sufferings. I highly recommend this book, as it is not your typical World War II memoir-style book, which requests the reader to view the author as a victim and diminish their own trials and tribulations in comparison. It is a thought-provoking read, rather, that opens the mind of the reader to the possibility of growth. It is, however, a heavy read, and it is not for the faint-hearted, as it does detail the atrocities experienced at the concentration camp. However, this is necessary as it ultimately strengthens the plausibility of Edith's insights on healing and the human mind. One of the most profound moments of the book for me was when Edith goes back to Auschwitz as a grandmother and stands in the exact spot where she was separated from her mother all those years ago. She confesses out loud and apologizes for telling the Nazi officer all those years ago that the lady next to her was her mother and not her sister, as she did not know that the answer to this question would be her mother's ultimatum, ultimately sending her to the gas chambers. This moment is when she completes the process of self-forgiveness, which is a crucial part of freeing oneself from the prison of guilt. Overall, this book is filled with key takeaways and valuable insights that one can apply to their own sufferings, but ultimately it comes down to one thing: the choice to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. That's a very interesting book, and you explained it very nice and clearly for us to understand. I guess I have a question, if nobody else has a question.
Okay.
I just want to find out, is this book more non-fiction, or is it more an autobiography, or is it like a self-help book? How is it, like, what is the approach?
So it's more a self-help genre. So as she is a psychologist, it is geared towards applying her own learnings, but it does have a bit of a historical backdrop to the book. So, and it is written in a sort of semi-autobiographical kind of style.
Okay, so through her own life, she teaches.
Yes.
Okay, very interesting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Tina. Thank you so much for your review.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker or reviewer is going to be Miss Irene Downer, and she will be reviewing the book titled 100 Letters That Changed the World by Colin Salter. So without further ado, Irene, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Indeed, this is slightly different. I'm not reviewing one specific book. We are ever, dear visionary readers, mindful of the pen is mightier than the sword, or never to underestimate the power of the written word. I have chosen to review differently. Here I refer to this fascinating publication of 100 letters that changed the world. It is a compendium of letters written with turning points in history, a selection of diverse historical figures who either wrote or were written to. Reasons for these were multifold: plots, secret messages, appeals for peace, love letters, heartbreaking farewells. The timeline spans from BC to present day. Letters written of positive and negative influence by people across the broad spectrum of society. These seek to inform, motivate, inspire, and include such of the following examples. Caesar's murderers corresponding to work out their next move. St. Paul guiding the principles of Christianity through his letters, and he was a great letter writer. Joan of Arc informing Henry VI that God is on her side. Columbus, explanation of his discoveries to the King of Spain. Henry VIII's love letter to Anne Boleyn. Elizabeth I begging for her life from her sister, Bloody Mary, otherwise Mary, Queen of Scots. The final letter from the Titanic, discovered but had never been sent. Nelson Mandela sends the South African Prime Minister an ultimatum, and we know what the ripple effect that had eventually. The whistleblowers appeal to future whistleblowers, and many other political figures, such as Stalin, Hitler, Kennedy, Roosevelt, Churchill. The list is really quite vast. The final three that I touch upon for this particular review to include here are all women, or rather related to women. We've just come out of Women's Month, which was August, and these include Women in the Entertainment Industry Demanding Change, Helen Keller's correspondence with Alexander Graham Bell, and most recently, Greta Thunberg's letter to the Indian Prime Minister relating to climate change. I think you will agree that these are all very, very relevant and very topical. It's almost like picking up this particular book as a short story, when in a moment during the course of the day, I think, what letter or short story should I read today that will help pass the following half hour or 45 minutes? Something that is short, sharp, and sweet.
I'll take one question for Irene. Does anybody have a question for Irene before we move on to the next speaker? Please raise your hand if you have a question with the hand reaction. Anyone? Tina, yes, I see a hand there. Tina, just switch on your camera for the question.
All right. Hi, Irene. My question to you is basically, of the letters and the stories in the book, which one for you was a particular standout?
Helen Keller.
Okay.
She later on in life inspired so many people. She actually achieved her BA. She achieved her BA.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It stood out.
Thank you so much for your question, Tina, and thank you for the answer, Irene. All right, so I think we can move on to our next speaker in the little time that we have, and then we will all leave the call and rejoin the call. I think, Becky, I see you are back online. Can I hand over to you to review your own book, Elite Productivity?
Fantastic. Thank you, Tonya.
Perfect.
Now, just to give you an overview of a couple of things that we look at in this book, right? The first thing I look at is how to find clarity, because I've realized that a lot of times the reason people don't produce at their utmost level best is just because of lack of clarity.
If I had $1 each time I heard someone says, I'm having a hectic day, I'd probably be a millionaire. You've seen him before. You've seen her before. He's having a great career. He's got a side business. He's doing great there as well. And somehow he finds time to contribute to meaningful projects in his community. I call him an elite producer. You've seen her before. She's got a great career too. She's a great mother, and somehow she finds time to have a normal social life. I call her an elite producer. As the economy is opening up, it seems like we are all trying to catch up on the lost time we had during lockdown. And that's why every day seems like a hectic day. Companies have cut down on resources and some stuff, which means a job that used to be done by 3 people is now expected to be done by 1 person with the same effectiveness. That's why I'm inviting all of you to be elite producers. As a business, you will need to make do with limited resources. That includes human resources. That means all companies, entrepreneurs, and business people need to adopt elite productivity mindset. In the Elite Productivity book, I give you tools, tips, and strategies on how to increase your productivity level while resources are dwindling or even less resources. This book is a culmination of all my experience in various industries. I've also taken the time to interview some of the most elite producers, and they give their secrets. Use the link provided on this video to order your copy of the Elite Productivity. After reading this book, you will never ever find yourself asking yourself, why did I miss this deadline? Why is it that I don't produce at a level that I want to produce in? This book will solve all your productivity challenges. This is an official invitation to be an elite producer. The Elite Productivity book will be launched on the 2nd of October in Silverton. I would love to see you there. You'll get an opportunity to ask me questions as the author. You'll also get an opportunity to meet up and connect with some of the people that I interviewed when I was writing this book. Use the link provided to book your seat in the Elite Productivity launch event. I would love to see you there. I would love to connect with you and see how we can help you to become an elite producer.
Becky, first of all, well done. Your book sounds very interesting, and love the whole elite producer thing you have there. So love it. And yes, quite excited that you're launching it next week. So hopefully you can advertise in the visionary group chat as well, so that you can also spread the word of your book. And yeah, I think the book sounds very relevant for us young working individuals. But yeah, let me open the floor if anybody has a question for our author over here. Does anybody have a question? Just raise your hand with the reaction. Oh, I see Sibo has a question. Okay, Sibo, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Madam MC, and thank you to you, Mr. Author, Becky Sangomane, and your great review about your book. You said something that was quite interesting during your review. You mentioned that you cannot manage time, but you can manage your energy, which eventually enables you to manage your time. So if I said the right words there, can you maybe elaborate on that part?
That's a good one. I hope I'll be able to elaborate in the time I am given here. Can you still hear me? You have frozen. I'm not sure if it's me or you. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. I wish I could, I had enough time to really elaborate on that one. right? But I'll just give you an example. For instance, people who manage time, they manage diaries and they manage schedules and so forth. It becomes difficult because we are not all built the same. You get other people who are night workers, so they are great and they are very energetic at night. So how do they then use up that energy in such a way that they produce more? And you get other people that are morning producers. So, and you get other people that are day producers. So one of the things that you'll need to do is you'll need to check what kind of a producer are you. For instance, I'll give you an example. If I want to work on something very creative, I know I have to work late at night to early morning. That's when my creative levels are high. And I've learned that through my years of being productive, that if I want to work on something creative, I'll have to use night or early morning, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. If I want to work on something analytical, I need to do it in the morning while my mind is fresh. When I wake up, then I have to do that. So those are some of the tips that I give there on how to manage your energy and use it wisely.
Okay, thank you, Becky.
Okay,
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Becky. Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the way you're explaining it sounds so Toastmasters level. So thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to move on then to our founder himself, Dr. Sibo. So yes, he will be reviewing the book called Pitch to Win by Justin Cohen. So over to you, Sibongiseni.
So just about the author firstly, before I talk about the book, Justin is an international speaker who presents and trains in the fields of motivation, sales, customer service, and leadership. He is one of the world's leading experts on pitching for business. So with that being said, before I took the stage, Becky spoke about Toastmasters. And the Toastmasters, we always see ourselves as kings and queens of acronyms and abbreviations. So back to the book again. This book is about how to present your ideas, how to pitch, how to present, persuade, and close the deal. So whether we are a speaker, whether we want to pitch a sales or we pitch anything relating to your business, it gives you guidelines on how to do that professionally, as he's also himself an international speaker and world-renowned trainer in that line of business. Just back to what I was mentioning in terms of the acronyms and abbreviations, the way this book is structured, it has 6 chapters. And all those chapters, they are structured in such a way that they form an acronym called TOPS. TOPS with double T and double P. So it's TTOPPS, TOPS. So what does each of these acronyms stands for? I mean, these letters in this acronym stands for. The first T stands for tune in. Before I elaborate further with each of these acronyms, first of all, when you pitch an idea, obviously we want to have something which will be easier for you to present and also to convince the people you are pitching to so that they can buy into your idea and then they can buy your services and also product. So with that being said, he structured it in such a way that it will be easier for you to follow as you're preparing your next speech. If you follow that structure, then it should be easier for your customer or for your audiences to convince. So tune in. What does it mean to tune in? It means listen first in that order. When you present an idea, it's more like you're providing a solution to the problem that is existing in that particular company. So that means before you can offer your services to present your ideas, you first need to understand what is the problem in this particular company. And now when you have the full information, you have tuned in, first listen to the company, the problems they have, and then formulate your pitch based on that problem, on those problems that they have in that company. Secondly, the second team stands for team. T for tuning, second T for team. I mean, John C. Maxwell once said, teamwork makes the dream work. Again, teamwork makes the dream work. If you want to present a pitch, especially to a big company, you cannot do it alone. You need a team. Even if you have a business where you are operating on your own, but most businesses, it's like They have a lot of people that work in different departments. So whenever you're presenting a pitch, you present to your team the problem that the company is facing, and then you work together, collaborate together, and find solutions together. And even with the pitch, when the pitch is ready, make sure everyone in your team is contributing towards solving that particular problem. And the more team and the more you collaborate with your team, the better you'll come to the solution within a very short period of time. Thirdly, O stands for optimism. Attitude is everything. So when you go to that pitch, always have the idea, be positive, be optimistic that you'll always win that pitch. Body language is everything. When you start pitching your idea, before you even open your mouth to say the first word, your body language should say, okay, I've won this pitch, I've made it. So show optimism, show excitement, passion, and that you love your job, you know what you're talking about. Research and also do your homework. Make sure that you, as I said in the beginning, you did your homework by researching the problem and also collaborating with your team. And then the optimism, knowing that you know what you're talking about and you've researched your facts, it will be easier to convince. So optimism is just like attitude. Attitude, not aptitude, determines your altitude. Zig Ziglar. And with that being said, you know already, even before you open your mouth, that you have closed the deal. And then the first P on the acronym TOPS stands for presence. Just the presence is also related to optimism. Always dress the part. If you're presenting to these big businesses, before you even say what you want to talk about, the way you are dressed, they always say, dress the way you want to be addressed. So professional speakers, they always make sure that they dress the part because it's easier to be believable and also to gain credibility based on your appearance. So in this field of business, they say a book is judged by its cover. A book is judged by its cover. So make sure you dress the part. That is about presence, and also make sure you dominate the stage as you're presenting your idea. And then the second piece for purpose. Passion is for others. Passion is for you, but passion is for others. That is Jay Shetty. So with that being said, when you're presenting a pitch, make sure you go there with a mentality of providing solutions to the problem that is existing. Show passion is the first step towards your purpose. Passion is for you, but purpose is for others. The ideas or the solutions you're providing to the company that is having problems, as you're pitching your ideas, they need problem solvers. So you're there with your purpose. The purpose is to sell, to provide solutions. And then the story, the S as in the acronym S, acronym TOPS stands for story. He also provided an acronym to do justice in terms of formulating your story very perfectly. He used the acronym ART, I for adversity, R for resolution, and T for transformation. So the story you want to share after diagnosing the problem, make sure is following those three letters in that acronym. So in conclusion, he's saying in your next speech or next pitch, create a powerful team brimming with optimism, vibrating with presence, and driven by purpose to deliver a riveting story. Thank you, Madam MC.
Thank you so much, Sibongiseni. That was really interesting. And thank you for breaking it down for us. Maybe for those who don't know Sibo, he is literally the CEO of acronyms. So thank you so much for that, Sibo. And yeah, very interesting and relevant to anyone who wants to pursue speaking skills and better themselves like that. All right, I already see a question coming up there from Becky. So I'm just going to hand over to him then.
Thank you, Sibo. That was a great review. I like Justin Cohen. I like him because I can relate, because he's also South African. You know, most of the self-help books that we read are from Americans, but Justin is bringing in such a way that as a South African, you all relate. Though it sounds to me that like this book is mainly for someone that would be a salesperson. Would any other person who is not a salesperson still get value from this book? Absolutely. And why? And what kind of value?
Okay, that is a good for that question. So pitching your ideas, or as a salesperson, is everyone who's on the line of business. Remember, if you're in the line of business, it's either you're selling an idea like a product or a service. So with that being said, you don't necessarily have to be a salesperson to be always selling ideas. You can be the CEO of your business. You can be maybe any department within that specific company, regardless of the product or service you are selling. And just to bring it back or to expand, remember this: each and every individual, whether you're in the line of business or not, you are a salesperson. So you use the formula out of this book even to prepare for the interview. So what to do in that first acronym or tune, you need to listen. Listening in this regard, you can always adapt it to having to do your research regarding the company. And after doing your research about the company, you can ask friends in terms of collaboration, team collaboration, ask your friends or even people that you know in that company in terms of how maybe the interviews are structured in that particular company and so forth and so forth. Using optimism as well, because in communication in general, communication skills are very important. So Justice Cohen, he also, as you know him, is a South African. His other book is titled The Astonishing Power of Story. So he also shared in the last chapter about storytelling, about how to present your story, how to present yourself, formulate your ideas in the form of the story so that you can present yourself in a much more convincing way. Be vulnerable and show how you have overcome adversity before, and then for in terms of how did you make reasons in terms of those adversities we have experienced before, and then finally, in terms of how did that transformation or resolution changed you or transformed you and then made you a better person. So it's not only specific to salesperson, it's broad enough. It's actually tailor-made for anyone who wants to sell himself or their business. I hope I answered you. Back to you, Tonya.
Thank you so much, Sibo. That was nice and thorough. And I think, yeah, that also sounds very interesting. I think we're all going to get that book now. Thank you so much, Sibo. Okay, so I think I saw that Ronald is back on the call. So Ronald, are you there? Ronald Muringai.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Perfect. I'm going to hand over to you. You're going to be reviewing your own book titled Fathering Sons, the Perspective of Being the Father. So yes, without further ado, let me hand over to you.
All right. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and good evening to everybody who's out there. Hope obviously you guys are doing all right. We have moved, of course, into a new season altogether. The summer is here. So, but I won't speak much into that, of course, because I've only got 5 minutes and I want to kind of run into this thing very quickly. So anyway, my name is Ronald, as you heard from the introduction earlier. And I've written a book here called Fathering Sons, which I should actually put a disclaimer first to say I didn't write this out of my own wisdom. I actually had to take out a survey of about 120 guys, find out how the relationship was, their relationship personally, of course, with their fathers was, and obviously what were the things that could be improved from there. And from that, it was a survey of about 23 questions. Then I kind of drew some of the most prominent things that came out there, and then compiled them to write this book. But beyond that, I think the most important motivation, I would say, that comes from this book is personal, of course. I mean, there has to be a personal story to it for it to actually make any personal sense and to reach to you at a personal level. Just, of course, wish personally I had bought Sbongiseni's book and gotten the confidence to sell myself and sell my book so with such spunk and energy like it does. But obviously then I think it's something that I have to do now that it's kind of told us what we kind of have to do. Yes. Sbongiseni, I want that book. So anyway, this book, as I said earlier, of course, just talks about that relationship between fathers and sons. As you know, for most part, especially within the African community, to a lesser extent to the European and Indian communities as well, there's a bit of a fatherlessness crisis in that a lot of children are growing up outside of their families. They don't grow up with their father in the house, as it were. Most of the part, it's either a stepfather has stepped in or there's actually no father at all and people are growing up with single mothers. So that shapes about 60% of the children in South Africa at the current moment. I think as the stats kind of came out about 2 months ago, they haven't really changed. And the funny thing is, these stats have been almost constant for the past 10 to 15 years. Nothing has really changed. It doesn't get better over time, as one would expect. So we're seeing a lot of children, an entire generation almost coming up without a father present in their lives, kind of teach them and show them the ropes, of course, especially for the boys, of what it is to become a man and what it is to be a man. And so my book, I think, tries to address that. And I think from the motivational perspective, the time they become men, so obviously I'm talking about a 10, 15-year project here to say, if we're going to change the next generation, it has to start now. It doesn't say, of course, that we're going to change everything tomorrow, but it says we should hopefully then make a new kind of man, a new model of a man to come up. And so, like I said, yeah, I think for me, my whole point then was getting to a point of reconciliation with my dad, getting a point of forgiveness with my dad, who then passed away, I think just probably it was a week after we had the reconciliation event. And so for me, it then spoke and said, there has to be done then for all these men who grow up with that level of anger, with that level of detest and disillusionment about the relationship that they have with their dads. And so with that, I think just in the message they're saying about a minute left. Come on, 5 minutes. Who gives 5 minutes? That is, guys. Anyway, thank you very much. In a nutshell, that's really what the book is about. And I hope, of course, for people out there who might be interested in getting a copy, get in touch with me and let's see how we can do that. And of course, like I said, I do speak. And yeah, we can also speak about that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tony, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ronald. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain it to us.
Hi, everyone. My question is for Ronald. What do you think is the role of the family towards making sure that their sons take care of their sons? Because I feel like this day one is minding their business, but then especially as Africans, at some point they're gonna tell you that their ancestors want the child, blah blah blah. So what do you think should be the role of the family? Thank you.
Right, thanks, Veronica. I think for me, one of the things that I've kind of pushed, even from the webinars that I've been attending and speaking at and the events that I've been talking to, is the fact that, you know, from an African perspective, we believe that it takes a village to raise a child. So it's not really a singular thing, or to say perhaps it's only responsible for the next 2, 3, or 4 people to be able to take in or fill in that gap where there's no dad, for example, but the entire village. So as an entire family, then we are important in that. We are actually the people who are supposed to ensure that as an entire family, we get to a place where we realize that, you know what, there's a problem that's in society at the moment, and we have to try then and fix that. And we have to put our hands to the wheel. You know, let's ensure that, you know, the uncles, the malumes, the grandfathers, and everybody else who's around those young boys and young men, young children, girls in general, do that fatherhood role and ensure that these kids get as much as they can from us as we transmit and transform the next generation.
Thank you.
Okay, Falconer, you can ask a question. Thanks, Veronica.
Thanks. I wanted to ask a question to Ronald. He just answered me. So let me go back to you, Sbo, based on the book Pitch to Win.
Yes.
One of the first P, you said present and dress the part. It means always dress well in order for people to accept you, right? So my question to you is, what if you don't have clothes? Do you borrow them from somewhere? And if you borrow them from somewhere, then it means we are not presenting yourself, especially if it's an interview. You are not presenting yourself, but you understand. So because when you present yourself, you need to show people who you are, and they need to accept you or reject you because of who you are. So if I come to you and borrow a blazer for me to look good, but how can you address that one? The first P, present yourself in dressing well.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Remember this, dressing up well does not necessarily mean you must look formal. It just means you must look presentable. You must dress the part. So the word formal is different from dressing presentable. So as long as the way you are dressed, it won't put attention to how you look. Let's say, for instance, you are wearing a red t-shirt that will distract the interviewers or the people who are listening to you, or wearing techies and there's something distracting in your appearance. So as long as you look presentable, the attention shouldn't be on how you are looking. You don't necessarily have to wear a suit. Formal can mean a lot of different things to different people. We are Africans, as you just said. You can just wear something that maybe something representing your culture, but as long as it's not too much or it's not too conspicuous, just make sure you look presentable. If it means that you want to look formal, like as you are talking about the suit, obviously, if you have a friend who's exactly the same size as you, no problem. You can go and borrow that suit as long as you agree or you are in good conditions with your friend and then you return it the same way, your same conditions you got it. I think that's okay. But always remember, looking presentable does not mean, dressing the part does not mean looking formal. It just means looks presentable. I hope I answered your question. And then there was Kulula's hand afterwards. Kulula, over to you.
Thanks, Sibo. I have two questions. My first question is for Bheki. In his review, he spoke about using your distractions for productivity, which, as you hear that, essentially are from different worlds, being distracted and being productive. And I would just like to know, how do you then use your productivity, which is a negative, your distractions, which is a negative energy, for productivity, which is a positive energy? And for Ronald, before you go, Bheki, you parent, how you were parented, how you were raised up is how you raise your own children. If you have been raised, an absent father, where do you learn how to raise your voice? What do you take from to become that positive to your voice? Thanks.
Honestly, the way you asked that question, that's exactly how I ask my questions. I had to find a way to leverage those distractions to make them work for me rather than work against me. I tell a beautiful story in the book, I tell a beautiful story of how a lady was feeding her monkey. You look at your distraction as your monkey and you feed it according to your, it's a nice chapter and it's a very beautiful chapter. It's got, I think it's about 4 or 5 pages where I teach you how to leverage on those distractions and feed your monkey in your terms rather than at its terms. I hope that answers your question slightly.
Right, thank you. So I think the most important thing that's, so I forgot the speaker's name, the lady who was asking the question. But the most important thing I've canalized over time is to try and ask from those who know. In other words, there's some ahead of you who knows who's your mother, but not the first father or the first son. Before you, your mother, before them, you've got aunties and uncles as well around you. You've got people at church, you've got people in the community. There's so many people that you can speak to. Failure to which, of course, if you're not that kind of a story. So internet, you've got YouTube videos, you've got books like where we're finding ourselves. There's so much out there we can then learn and unlearn the stuff that we learned from our parents, learn new stuff that then becomes effective and helpful for our children going forward.
Just to wrap up, thank you to everyone who presented. Thank you to everyone for listening, for coming with questions, and just for the general enthusiasm, keeping this club alive. And yes, let's spread the word. Our next meeting will be next month, end of the month. So please send in your book titles or books that you want to review and your names on the group so we can fill that agenda. But yes, once again, thank you so much for spending your Sunday evening with us. Let's start this week on a good note. Let's be productive and let's buy each other's books and grow as visionary readers. So without further ado, thank you everyone. Have a great Sunday evening and we will see you all in the next month's meeting. Bye everyone.